Moving to Malaysia is a very bad idea. Today I wanted to fill you in on why Malaysia is not a great option for most people watching this video, and why an unknown yet peaceful country in Latin America is a much healthier choice. Before we get started talking about the facts, I wanted to make something very clear here. I personally lived in Malaysia several times, and I did like my time in Malaysia a lot. I have great memories during the times I was able to live in the beautiful Southeast Asian country. This is a video based on facts and personal experience, plus what is really most important for you in the long term. I currently live in Paraguay, and I believe that Paraguay is a much better choice for the average American, Canadian, European, and Australian expat. Paraguay brings more to the table and offers a lot more stability than Malaysia. I wanted to get started talking about the residency options that the two countries offer. As you have probably witnessed, during the past crisis, Malaysia underwent significant changes to several of its residency programs, including the Malaysia My Second Home program and the Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur program. The Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur program was paused during the past health crisis and did not accept new applicants for a prolonged period of time. Now, the Malaysia My Second Home program, which is, in my opinion, one of the most successful and worthy retirement programs, not just in Southeast Asia, but across the globe. Malaysia is a great retirement spot. It is a beautiful, vibrant country, and it is a melting pot of different cultures. There's so much good in Malaysia. So I don't want to undermine Malaysia's credibility. However, what happened during the past years, especially the frequent changes to Malaysia's residency programs, I do not want to undermine Malaysia in this video, but I believe that during the past crisis and the past couple of years, with Malaysia changing its residency requirements so often, Malaysia lost its credibility. Once credibility has been lost, it should never be reestablished. The Malaysia My Second Home program allows you to legally immigrate to Malaysia through property ownership. There are several distinct Malaysia My Second Home programs available in 2025, including the Peninsula Malaysia My Second Home program, the Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program, and the Sabah Malaysia My Second Home program. The Sarawak Malaysia My Second Home program has been one of the most consistent, even though it underwent minor changes as well. It's one of the most interesting retirement options in Southeast Asia. The Peninsula Malaysia My Second Home program underwent drastic changes during the past number of years, raising eyebrows across the board, including shocking many of its current pass holders at the time. I think once you qualify for a residency program under certain conditions and were promised that you were able to renew your visa under the old conditions and remain living in the country, I think the old agreement should be honored at all times. But there was a time during the past crisis where the former government announced that the new changes would also be applicable to current existing Malaysia My Second Home pass holders, and a lot of people were unhappy about that. Some considered leaving the country, and many did leave the country altogether. Once credibility is lost, it can never be reestablished. On the other hand, Paraguay is one of the most liberal countries in Latin America. And just talking about Paraguay's residency program, you can get Paraguayan residency without proving economic solvency. Paraguay is a country of immigrants. It has a prolonged history of people from different geographic locations, including Europe, moving to the landlocked country in South America and establishing a brand new life right here in Paraguay. So from a barrier of entry perspective, Paraguay beats Malaysia any day. It's one of the easiest second residency permits in the entire world. Talking about permanent residency, once you've been on temporary residency for 2 years here, you have the option to convert to permanent residency. Unlike Malaysia, which makes it very difficult to obtain permanent residency, only the most expensive Malaysia My Second Home program offers permanent residency to its pass holders. But people who qualify for a lesser program may never find themselves eligible for permanent residency in Malaysia. So technically you are a long-term visit pass holder, not a permanent resident. You have very different rights as a long-term visit pass holder than you have as a permanent resident. And let's not even talk about citizenship, something that will never happen in Malaysia. You're never going to become a citizen of Malaysia. Many people say, oh, I don't want to become a citizen. It's not important to me. I'm happy living in Malaysia on a tourist visa. I'm happy living in Malaysia on a long-term social visit pass. That's what you might say now, but what happens if and when times change? If there is a global conflict and you're no longer able to travel back to your native country, and let's say Malaysia would expel you, where would you end up going? You know, if you don't have permanent residence, if you don't have citizenship, you can get kicked out of the country rather easily. Plus, as a social visit pass holder, you cannot even work in Malaysia legally. You have to get a work permit. Sometimes people, even those on residency, have to renew their work permit every year or every 2 years. This is very different in Latin America. If you become a resident of Paraguay, you can legally incorporate, own, and run a company here without problems, be it on temporary residency or permanent residency. In fact, if you come here as a visitor, you can also incorporate a company here, but you have to start a company with a local person, which is not something that I recommend. I recommend starting the company yourself without interference of anyone. And you can legally own and operate a company in Paraguay. You just have to get residency first. Once you have residency, and like I said, before the 2 years are up, you can convert to permanent residency, which is valid for 10 years and renewable. How many people do you know who obtained permanent residency in Malaysia? Let's see how many people really obtained it. I don't know of any. It's almost impossible to get permanent residency in Malaysia. And certainly, citizenship is impossible for an immigrant to Malaysia. Now let's talk about property ownership, another very important topic. Don't move to Malaysia because you cannot own land so easily in Malaysia. Now, if you qualify for the Malaysia My Second Home program and you buy a property, so you can buy the house and the land the house is built on, then yes, you do own the home and the land the house is built on. However, if you get into Malaysia on a lesser visa, let's say a social visit pass that does not require you to purchase a property, you cannot own land in Malaysia easily unless it is tied to your residency. It is a requirement for your residency permit. Now, if you come to Malaysia under the Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur Program, you can also not own land legally in Malaysia. You can really only do it when you move there and qualify for the Malaysia My Second Home program, which requires the purchase of a real estate, right? If you buy real estate, and if that's the contingency for the government to issue residency, then yes, you can do it. But you must invest a minimum of so and so much money. So you can't just buy the cheapest property. It must be the minimum amount, and it's actually quite high. In Paraguay's case, you can obtain residency without the need to purchase a property. Plus, you can own land anywhere you want in the country. You're not restricted to any specific geography in Paraguay. You can own land in Asunción, Encarnación, Ciudad del Este, Caguazú, anywhere you want. You don't have to own land in any specific area to qualify for Paraguayan residency. In fact, there's no need to own land or a house to get Paraguayan residency. You don't even have to show income proof to get temporary residency in Paraguay, nothing. And then if you are a resident and you want to buy land, you can buy land for as little as $1,000. Or you can also spend as much as $1 million. That's totally up to you. But you'd see there is a more relaxed energy around owning property here in Paraguay, whereas in Malaysia, it is just a nightmare. Another very important point is that during the past crisis, Malaysia was very closed to its Malaysia My Second Home pass holders and Malaysia Tech Entrepreneur pass holders. Many people complained about not being able to travel to Malaysia during the past crisis. Now, they had very long, strict lockdowns in the Far East, whereas in Paraguay, this really only happened for 3 months. And I have personally verified that. So this is a big difference here. There is a big difference in freedom. Paraguay is a lot more free than Malaysia. Paraguay offers much better value than Malaysia. Paraguay does not tyrannize its citizens like the countries in the Far East do. Paraguay is more liberal, yet it is conservative because as a legal resident of Paraguay, you can also own firearms legally, which you will never be able to do in Malaysia. What about investing in the two countries? Paraguay just got upgraded to investment grade. Because of Paraguay's strict anti-money laundering laws, Paraguay just got upgraded to investment grade, making it shine on the international investment stage. I think this is super important. Paraguay is strict when it comes to transferring money from abroad into Paraguay. Oftentimes you have to show proof of income, something like a tax return, bank account statements, or an employment contract for the bank to accept the foreign transfer. Now, this is super important. Some people are complaining about it. They're like, Paraguay is making it too difficult to transfer money in from abroad. However, Paraguay is doing this for a reason, because Paraguay has very strict anti-money laundering laws. Before, only banks used to do it here in Paraguay. Nowadays, car dealerships and even real estate agents require a proof of income, which you can show through a tax return, bank account statements, salary slips, and so forth. Now, to be fair, Malaysia also makes it harder to transfer money in than it did before. Nowadays, opening up a bank account in Malaysia is much more difficult than it used to be in 2011. In 2011, you just walked into a bank in Malaysia and, you could open up a bank account by depositing just a few hundred ringgit, and they only required your passport. That was it. There was no proof of employment in Malaysia. There was no proof of income required. It was very easy to open up a bank account in Malaysia 15 years ago. Today, it's very difficult. But to be fair, in Paraguay, to open up a bank account, you must have residency and cedula, which is your national ID card. Once you have these two documents, you can open up a bank account right here in the heart of South America. Now, the real question is, who is Malaysia for? Who is Paraguay for? I think Malaysia is a lot better for Australians and Kiwis because of the time zone. If you are a Kiwi or an Australian and you still have a company in Australia or New Zealand, it's going to be much easier for you to operate that company from Malaysia than, say, Paraguay, because of time zone differences, right? Plus, the whole proximity factor is super important. If you have family back in Australia and New Zealand, then it's obviously much easier for you to travel to Southeast Asia than across the globe to Paraguay and South America. Now, Paraguay is a much better option for Americans, Canadians, and Europeans because of the time zone. You have direct flights from Paraguay to Panama and also Europe. Plus, if you're an American or Canadian, you have a company in North America and you don't want to move too far away because of time zone concerns, you can move down to Paraguay, obtain residency without proving economic solvency. And the time is going to be slightly different. It's going to be maybe an hour or 2 hours later than where you're located at right now. Of course, if you're located on the West Coast in Canada or the US, then you're dealing with 4 to 5 hours of time difference, but it's manageable. And if you're based on the East Coast or in Texas, then of course it's going to be much easier for you to adjust to the time zone here than in Southeast Asia. It just makes a lot more sense to move to Paraguay than Malaysia. Don't move to Malaysia if you value property rights. Don't move to Malaysia if you value civil rights. Don't move to Malaysia if you want to get permanent residency, because all these things are much more accomplishable in Paraguay. Paraguay offers full reciprocity in civil and property rights, and it is one of the best countries to immigrate to. In terms of taxes, Paraguay beats Malaysia any day. Paraguay is home to a territorial tax system where you don't pay taxes on foreign sourced income. Plus, local taxes for residents are capped at 10%. If you own a company locally in Paraguay that trades within the Mercosur region and you meet all the requirements, you may qualify for a 1% corporate tax rate. So if you have foreign sourced income in Paraguay, zero tax. If you have a local company, anywhere from 1% to 10% in taxes. Plus, you can deduct all your expenses from your taxable income, further reducing the money that you have to pay to the Paraguayan government. If you're interested in obtaining residency in Paraguay and would like to take us up on our July 2025 specials, go to nomadelite.com and click on book a consultation. You can save up to $1,000 on one of our residency packages this month. We have 3 distinct packages to choose from. If you want a plan B, we have the plan B package, which includes all legal, government, and administrative fees, all processes, all translations, everything that needs to happen for you to obtain legal residency in Paraguay. This package can be purchased for just $2,200 this month. If you want to spend more time in Paraguay, say at least a couple weeks to a couple months annually, I highly recommend our Relocate T package, which includes all Plan B features, plus all government, legal, administrative fees and processes for your national ID card, driver's license, tax number, bank account opening, and so forth. Are you ready to immigrate to Paraguay? Go to nomadelite.com and click on book a consultation. I look forward to speaking with you and welcoming you to Paraguay.